Good morning, and welcome to United States Army Medical Center of Excellence, Joint Base San Antonio Native American Observance. Today's event is sponsored by the United States Army Medical Center of Excellence and hosted by the 32nd Medical Brigade and the 188 Medical Battalion. Today's guest speaker is the Honorable Robert Yazzie. We are honored to have him as our guest speaker for today's event. We are joined today by many distinguished guests, visitors, and friends. The Medical Center of Excellence Commanding General, Major General Michael J. Talley, the Medical Center of Excellence Command Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Victor J. Lergione, the 32nd Medical Brigade Commander Colonel Mark R. Weldy, and the 32nd Medical Brigade Command Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Gilberto Colon. Please stand for the playing of the National Anthem by Stephen Padilla, United States Air Force retired, and remain standing for the invocation given by Chaplain Travis Wilson.
Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you today. Thank you for all the many blessings you bestow upon our lives. Lord, the great weather is brisk, and the skies are wonderful to look at this morning. As we reflect on the culture of the Native Americans, Lord, let us learn something. Let us reach deep inside. Let us be challenged to grow. Lord, thank you for our guest speaker. Thank you for our participants, Lord, and thank you for this great nation you have provided. Lord, it's in your wonderful and most certain, your precious name I pray all of these things. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you for taking time today to attend the Native American Heritage Observance. Today's observance will be a reflection of Native Americans and their contribution to our great nation. During this hour, let your hearts and eyes be open to learn. This year's reflective theme is celebrating respect, culture, and education. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States National Native American Heritage Observance Proclamation. During National Native American Heritage Month, we celebrate Indigenous peoples past and present and rededicate ourselves to honoring tribal sovereignty, promoting tribal self-determination, and upholding the United States' solemn trust and treaty responsibilities to tribal nations. America has not always delivered on its promise of equal dignity and respect for Native Americans. For centuries, broken treaties, disposition of ancestral lands, and policies of assimilation and termination sought to decimate Native populations and their ways of life. But despite this painful history, Indigenous peoples, their governments, and their communities have persevered, and flourished. As teachers and scholars, scientists and doctors, writers and artists, business leaders and elected officials, heroes in uniform, and so much more, they have made immeasurable contributions to our country's progress. We must do more to ensure that Native Americans have every opportunity to succeed and that their expertise informs our federal policymaking. That is why my administration is engaging in meaningful consultation with tribal leaders, particularly when it comes to treaty rights, reserved rights, management and stewardship of federal lands, consideration of indigenous knowledge, and other policies that affect Native peoples. That is also why I appointed Secretary Deb Haaland to be the first ever Native American Cabinet Secretary, and why more than 50 Native Americans now serve in significant roles across the executive branch. Meanwhile, we are creating new jobs in Native American communities and bolstering infrastructure in tribal areas. My administration's American Rescue Plan made the largest ever investment in Indian country to help tribal nations combat the COVID-19 pandemic and to support tribal economic recovery. My administration's bipartisan infrastructure law secured more than $13 billion exclusively for Native communities to deliver high-speed internet to tribal lands, build safer roads and bridges, modernize sanitation systems, and provide clean drinking water, all while putting people to work. Through the Inflation Reduction Act, we are lowering the price of health care coverage and capping drug costs for indigenous families. We are empowering tribes to fight drought, improve fisheries, and transition to clean energy as part of the most significant climate investment this nation has ever made. These investments include climate adaptation planning and community-led relocation efforts, funding a tribal electrification program to provide power to unelectrified homes, making environmental justice block grants available to help alleviate legacy pollution, bolstering conservation programs across the country, and restoring protections for treasured land that indigenous peoples have tirelessly stewarded, such as Bears Ears and the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. We are also helping Native communities heal from intergenerational trauma caused by past policies. Last year, the Department of the Interior launched the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative to shed light on the harmful history of forced cultural assimilation at these academic institutions. We are investing in tribal language revitalization, protecting tribal voting rights, and working with tribal partners to tackle the crisis of missing or murdered indigenous people. As we look ahead, my administration will continue to write a new and better chapter in the story of our nation-to-nation relationships. We will defend tribal sovereignty, self-government, self-determination in the homelands of tribal nations. We will support tribal economies, recognizing that tribal governments provide a vast array of physical infrastructure, social services, and good-paying jobs that benefit their citizens and surrounding communities. We will keep fighting for better health care, child care, education, and housing in tribal communities. We will always honor the profound impact Native Americans continue to have in shaping our nation and bringing us closer to the most perfect union we can and must be. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim November 2022 as National Native American Heritage Month. I urge all Americans, as well as their elected representatives at the federal, state, and local levels, to observe this month with the appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities, and to celebrate November 25th, 2022 as Native American Heritage Day. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 31st day of October in the year of our Lord, 2022, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 247th. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, in line with the President of the United States Proclamation, I will now read the City of San Antonio, Texas Native American Heritage Observance Proclamation. Whereas the City of San Antonio is proud to join the 32nd Medical Brigade in observing the month of November 2022 as National American Indian Heritage Month, and to recognize American Indians for their respect of natural resources and honor their many distinct contributions to the United States, and whereas American Indian and Alaska Natives have played such an integral part in the establishment of San Antonio, and their vibrant and ancient customs have greatly contributed to our city's cultural heritage, and whereas more than 500 tribal entities that identify as American Indian and Alaska Native continue preserving their own rich cultural history and traditions while encouraging their youth to make meaningful contributions to the nation and world, and whereas we celebrate our fellow American Indian and Alaska Native communities and pay tribute to all they may have done to fulfill the promise of America for all. Now, therefore, I, Ron Nuremberg, Mayor of the City of San Antonio, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim November 2022 to be National American Indian Heritage Month. Please welcome our Commanding General, Major General Michael J. Talley, for his opening remarks.
All right. Hey, thanks everyone, and glad you could all come out to celebrate our Native American Heritage Observance. And you heard the proclamations, and I tell you, what a fitting theme that we have this year, celebrating respect, culture, and education, which is exactly why we pay tribute to the different ethnic groups, and we have these observances like this. This is who we are as a country. It's who we are as an Army, made up of different backgrounds, ethnicities, and coming together to learn more about our rich heritage and the history behind it makes us better. To me, I call that combat power. And coming out and learning more about who we are as an Army, as teammates, just makes us better, makes us more aware, makes us more diverse, and certainly makes us the best Army in the world. So I couldn't ask for a better day and a better way to celebrate this. And certainly when you look at celebrating respect, culture, and education, this is certainly part of our culture, and today we're going to learn more, and that makes us even better. Hey, I want to thank a few folks, though, for putting this on today. And, you know, the 188th Training Battalion, 32nd Med Brigade did a lot of heavy lifting to put this together. Phenomenal first-class event. You saw the different pictorials and the historical testimonies as you came down the walkway. You couldn't ask for better weather conditions, and boy, do we have a great presentation in store for you. But more about the 188th putting this together. You talk about empowerment and empowering your subordinates. Staff Sergeant Foster and Specialist Markham and others, a very junior team that put this together. So it wasn't Colonel Weldy, it wasn't Sergeant Major Skaggs or the senior folks, but it was our junior soldiers that put this together. And I tell you, this is as good as it gets. So how about a round of applause for the folks that put this together? Phenomenal. Where's Specialist Markham? Come on out here, Specialist Markham. Take a bow. There she is right there. Thank you for all that you do. And hey, what a great rendition, too, of the National Anthem. Absolutely phenomenal, sir. And what a great way to tribute not just today's celebration, but to celebrate America. Thank you for that rendition. That was phenomenal. How about a round of applause for him? And Chaplain, thanks for the inspiring words and the perfect weather that we have right now anyway. He ordered it up. We can thank the chaplain for all of that. So, again, thank everyone for the preparation going into this. Chief Robert Yassi is going to be our guest speaker, and we have some other presentations today. But I think if we listen to certainly his story, his remarks, it just helps us grow certainly as teammates, as an Army, as soldiers and leaders and future leaders for sure. So looking forward to a great day. Thanks everyone for coming. And again, enjoy the observance, and let's celebrate who we are. Thank you.
We are grateful you took the time to join us today as we reflect on the contributions of our Native American citizens. We now welcome Mr. Stephen Padilla, who will be playing Amazing Grace.
The song Amazing Grace has a special place in the hearts of many of the First Nations people. On the Trail of Tears, the slaves who accompanied the soldiers sang Amazing Grace, and the people of the Americas picked up the tune, and the Cherokee Nation even translated it into their own language, and today they sing it very much the way that we sing our own national anthem. So out of honor and respect to those who were here before us, I play this song.
In a short moment, the Honorable Mr. Robert Yazzie will deliver an inspiring message. I would ask you to take a moment to look at his biography located in your program. Today we welcome him. Please grant him your undivided attention and allow his words of inspiration to rest upon your hearts. Mr. Yazzie, the floor is yours, sir.
Yat A. That's a way of saying Ya means everything, the whole world. At A means good. So that's how we greet each other. And my name is Robert Yazzie, yes. But the more important thing to remember when we greet each other, when we greet the audience, is to identify who you are in terms of your clan. So I want to share that my mother is Bitahni clan. And my father, the one I was born for, is Tudich Itni, means bitter water. And my grandfather is Ashihi, the salt clan. And also Kia'ani, they are my paternal grandfather. So I'm very honored to be here before you today, a special day for all of us. And I was a judge for 7 years, and I served as the Chief Justice of the Navajo Nation Supreme Court for 12 years. And I've learned a about law, how to serve the people, how to do the best you can to render the best decision on their issues. So, why am I here today? I'm asked to share my culture, my language as a Navajo. So in that way, I'm very grateful to be here before you to share my knowledge, my experience with you. And this month is devoted to Native American heritage. And what is its purpose? Is to acknowledge the ancestries and the traditions of Native Americans. So I stand before you thinking that the more education about Native American, the culture, the language, the better. So as contributions of the Navajos to the United States, the code talkers, we used to have probably 30 code talkers who served the Marine Corps in World War II. And I must say that there was a strong sense of loyalty and respect toward the protection of this country. And Navajos served in the military and were very proud of their contribution. They always are. My late brother served two tours in the Vietnam, and I have 2 grandkids who are now in the military. So there may be even other Navajos who are here, citizens of other tribes who are here today. So we have a very famous Navajo leader named Peter McDonald, and he also served, and he was in the Marine Corps during the World War II, and he was recruited as a code talker. And he tells a story that the Japanese were succeeding against the United States during World War II. It was during that time that one of the commanding officers recommended that the Navajo language be used to develop a secret code that the Japanese military would have had a difficult time understanding. So the Navajo language is difficult to learn and understand, and when you understand the language, it is very descriptive. I'll give you an example. The code talkers would have shared that the manner in which they communicated in the Navajo language to one another was that the translation was very important. For example, if you're saying torpedo, in Navajo you say "so baka." "So baka" means fish and bullet you put together. That is understood as a torpedo. Or you could say a tank. "Chehindatahe." "Chehindatahe" is a turtle that moves very, very slowly. So those are the words that were communicated. So the Japanese never were able to break the code. And our language has contributed to the success of the war, World War II. So the knowledge of the use of our language as a code has been disclosed to the public. The Navajo are proud to have been a part of this effort, and their language was one of that no one could break. My people are proud to have defended this country. So it's good to know about Navajo history. It's good to know about sovereignty. And I speak to you as a Navajo. It is important to know our history in a way that the land base that we live on is the same land we lived on since time immemorial. And Navajos, we have fought the Spanish settlers, Mexico, Americans, and which led to the Treaty of 1868. And we were held in captivity back in 1968. And at the time when the United States and Navajos nation saw fit to enter into a treaty of 1868. And just before that, the Navajos were held in captivity for 4 years. And through the Treaty of 1868, the Navajo Nation is recognized as a sovereign nation. And we have signed a treaty with the United States. And so after that, the Supreme Court has rendered a number of decisions regarding the recognition of Navajo sovereignty, as well as the sovereignty of other nations. And the Supreme Court decision in Williams v. Lee in 1952 rendered a decision that the Treaty of 1868 recognizes the Navajo Nation having the right to make their own laws and be governed by them. And it's worth noting to say that there is now a pending case before the U.S. Supreme Court, Brackeen versus Holland, which is raising the point that, you know, non-Indians have the right to adopt Navajo children. And we've always said that to do that, the Navajo people should be involved. The parents and the children should be involved. Yet the case pending before the Supreme Court is raising the argument that the manner in which the Indian Child Welfare Act, the law that determines who shall adopt Indian children and who should not be entitled to adopt Indian children. But the main point is this, that the Indian Child Welfare Act that protects Navajo children and their eligibility to be identified as Indian children, or is to say that Congress have passed the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act to be unconstitutional. So my reading as a Navajo person, as well as other Indian people, is to say that, you know, we have a relationship with the United States, a political relationship. So we need to maintain that type of relationship. And so the other matter that I want to share with you is the misconception. And part of my address today is to relate to the stereotypes or misconception about Native American, including Navajos. And some of those negative misconceptions of Native Americans include noble savage, romantic views of Indians, that we are simple, wild, and unsophisticated, that we are poor, defeated. And you can see a picture, displayed image of an Indian on horse with spear with his head down. And the other misconception would be bloodthirsty savage, warlike people who fought for the sake of fighting and without honor, and still lazy and dependent on the government for handouts. So I used to hear a comment like, Indians get paychecks from the government. So as a response to that, I say that I worked all my life, and I pay IRS all the time with my own earnings. And I'm not the only one. So racism underlying the stereotype led to assimilation policies. One expression you may have heard is to kill the Indian and save the man, or the only good Indian is a dead Indian. So this racism and these misconceptions have negatively impacted my people and all Native Americans. So I share my personal experience with you to say that I remember having gone to boarding school. I was enrolled at a place called Tohatcha Boarding School. Imagine my My mother lived about 20 miles away. But all the Navajo parents, Indian parents, were compelled to enroll their kids in boarding school 9 months out of the year. You can't go home. You cannot, what was there as a matter of policy was that we could not exercise our culture. We could not speak our language. Rules prohibited us from speaking our language. And I used to read signs that says, progress is an enemy of, progress is an enemy of, that progress is an enemy, tradition is an enemy of progress. So from all this experience as a little kid, just imagine that the message I was told was that I was unworthy as a Navajo. And my only hope for success was to assimilate. We were constantly told of that policy to children. And later in years, in my college years, I realized that how much we were mistreated and abused. And from that, I developed anger, frustrations over the suffering of my Navajo people. Until one day, as I was, reaching my adulthood, my uncle, my grandfather were concerned, and they confronted me, and they spoke with me. And I remembered the message and the teachings from my uncle and my grandfather is something that I think about today, something that I wish I needed in boarding school. What they said was, sit down, my grandson, and I want to address your anger. Dide is what he said, purely Navajo. Anger is a monster. You can't see it, but it's there. You can't walk your path in life that way. And first thing they said to me was to say that all life is precious. And they said, you have a right hand and a left hand to understand life. And meaning that what they were trying to stress is that all that surrounds us, natural elements, plants, water, air, and the light, and the people are related. We are related to nature, and nature is related to us. And they said to me, everything in life comes in twos that exists as opposites. For example, male, female, chaos and peace, life and death. They said that nature, like the wind and water, teaches that they can benefit our life, and they also can harm our life. Again, nature tells us that we are part of them and that they are a part of us. So, where you have a good situation or a bad one, they face each other. There's always, where that is the case, the facing of the good and the bad situation, there's always a solution. Not only does everything come in twos, they said, but there's always 2 in 1. Just remember that, 2 in 1. And they said, for example, when you look at anger, it has 2 sides, good and bad. And then I questioned that. What does that mean with respect to my anger, to my frustrations? I was puzzled and confused. And they said that as a person, we live with 2 opposites in our life. For instance, we have a left hand and a right hand, with yourself in between, for the sake of making choice. In other words, we live with the good and bad, and they coexist in us. They said anger is something that can take control of you. It is a monster, something you can't see. But it's there, and it will take control. So when I listened from their wisdom and teaching, I said, I can walk through life. I have the power to choose between anger and learn how not to give in to anger. And in between is the choice to do one or the other. You can seek life or allow death. So in my own walk, I learned to develop my knowledge and my experience about how life comes in twos. So because of nature, we have clanship and peacemaking. And when we talk about the past, we start with creation story. And there are 4 worlds. And those stories are told to give some meaning as to how clanship system can help us in our life. And we are told that they are meant to give us strength, resilient, by maintaining connection with each other. So, for example, today we've been taught well about what relationship means in the sense of clanship relation. If I see a person here, a young lady, I may not know her, but I would relate to her after we introduce each other by our relationship to say, Yat isha ma, hello mother. Yat isha teja, hello sister. Or it could be a man over here. Yat isha che, my grandfather. Yat isha tsele, hello my little brother. And that means a lot in our culture. So there are times when, our relationship gets disrupted. And this is the time that we remember to look at nature as a guide to make peace. And to know that to keep relationship, clanship together, we learn peacemaking. Ehototons means when something looks crooked in terms of a problem, we can straighten up through peacemaking. So, what is peacemaking? And a lot of people need to know what that is. And we've had peacemaking from time immemorial. And whenever there's a problem, there's always a solution. What does that mean? Peacemaking, when people are willingly come together to resolve issues, to resolve issue of the injured party, and to resolve issue with people who are responsible for the harm done. So the peacemaking is something that follows, like say, nature. And you can hear the grandfathers, the grandmother telling the story. How do we know our knowledge that had been put in place from the beginning of time? How do we know that? They can say through prayers and songs, they can say, look, it's still with us. This morning we got up, the sun came up. That triggers your thinking. And your thought might be, what's the problem here? What am I interested? So midday, you would have done something according to your thought of the morning. As the day goes, and then you say, what I did in terms of my thought, in terms of my plan, there's life. That's, the activity of the day, the grandmothers, the grandfathers would say. In the nighttime, you can lay there, calm and collective, and be able to say, maintain reverence, maintain respect, no matter what the day looks like, for better or for worse. You can respect what has happened for the day. So So in peacemaking, victims and families and relatives are invited. Peacemaking is a circle. The purpose of it is to talk things out. To talk things out about what happened and why. Why did you hurt me? And how can we resolve the harm at hand? So, I've been a judge all my life, and I've heard many cases where people injure each other. It could be a matter of tort cases. It could be an assault with a prosecution prosecuting the assault and battery. But the one thing that I notice is that we can talk about damage to relieve the pain, but the people said, when we look at our tradition, money is not everything. If you look at the pain, it is better to examine the pain itself and what it has done to relationship. What has the pain done to the breakup of the relationship? So while you can say, how much can I pay you for the pain? You can say enough so that you don't feel the hurt anymore. That's one consideration. So when people come together, they can disagree with each other. We always say in Navajo, we have a custom that says where you disagree, maintain respect. And remember, in peacemaking, the focus is not to blame. You're the one who caused the problem. But rather, again, to focus on the harm done, on the injury. So when that happens, when people are talking together, lo and behold, the person who's responsible may stand up and say, what I shouldn't have done, I did. The wrongdoer would accept responsibility for the harm done. So this is where, when peacemaking happens, when the talking things out happens, people begin to sense there has to be a decision made, a plan between the parties involved. And when the agreement is done, we have a word that says ina. Ina means life. Just what I said earlier. Ina to what the people thought in the peacemaking. Ina to what the people have done to talk things out, to identify the harm done. So to hold peacemaking is whatever issue may be at hand for the day, small or big. Anything's possible through peacemaking, because it's the people who own the problem. They define the issue, not the lawyers, not the judges. I'm a judge, I'm an attorney, and I'm not invited to be in the circle as a lawyer or as a judge. If I want to be, yes, I can be. And I have been a part of the peacemaking as a peacemaker to facilitate, not to play my role as a judge, but to say that, to encourage the people in the peacemaking to talk with one another. So the purpose of peacemaking is what? Not to say, I will win the case and you will be the loser. And I can just see you walk out with the tail between your legs, is what people would say. But when we do peacemaking, the goal is this. The goal is connected to the worldview. The worldview, the foundation is huizhong, means to restore, to recreate what is the good relationship. to restore relationship between the victims and the person responsible for the harm, including family members and relatives and those others who are in attendance. So, in conclusion, I would like to just share one with you, one experience. One day I was asked to facilitate a custody dispute in peacemaking, and this is a state court case. And the people came together, and there were lawyers, there were social workers, and other experts. When the day came to do the peacemaking, I told everybody, I don't need lawyers, I don't need judges, I don't need anybody. The only people I need here is the people who are directly involved with the custody arrangement. So that was a white woman who had custody of the child since birth. And the other side was the grandmother of the child. So the case went on. And then at some point, I told the grandmother and the other petitioner, the non-Indian, that we're going to leave the room. And it'll be up to you to face each other as what do you want to do with this custody issue? And when it was over, they came to an agreement. They said, you know, the two of us will take responsibility in raising the child. And you know what better? How better can you make this type of decision? So peacemaking is something that is very, very on the rise. And peacemaking and restorative justice, I tell people, mean the same thing, because in our language we don't talk about peacemaking to be different from restorative justice. So my last question is this. So what about our relationship with non-Indians? So when you ask Navajo people, they will say, we are five-finger people. And it doesn't matter where the other non-Indians may come. We are all related. As five-finger people, we are related. And peacemaking can help relations between anyone and everyone. And you have invited me to share what I have just told you. And I am a Navajo, and you are a non-Indian. And though we look at the past and say we have, suffered pain in different ways, and maybe you have as well, but we know that doing things good or doing things bad brings consequences. And like I said earlier, if there's something crooked about the relationship, the best thing to do is to open the door and have everybody contribute to straighten out the problem, to straighten out the relationship. So the more you know, the better. There is wisdom in the end. And what we do with what we know, learn, is up to us. And we can always do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yazzie. Ladies and gentlemen, the United San Antonio Powwow. Thank you, United San Antonio Powwow. Command Sergeant Major Skaggs, 188th Medical Battalion Command Sergeant Major, will be providing today's closing remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, civilian military leaders, on behalf of Lieutenant Colonel John Lavoie and the 188th Medical Battalion team, I sincerely thank you for your attendance at today's observance. I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize the efforts of the team that organized this event. Major Pam Antoine, my XO, and Captain Edwards, the Operations OIC, for assuring that the battalion planned to execute this event as a military operation. Captain Wilson and Sergeant First Class Buick, who truly went above and beyond in their level of personal investment, as Chaplain Wilson is currently clearing for PCS, and Sergeant First Class Buick is on terminal retirement leave, yet are all in on this event. Specialist Markham and Second Lieutenant Fazio, a junior soldier and a junior officer whose contributions far exceed expectations of great experience. Staff Sergeant Foster, our narrator. Specialist Luther, the man behind the obscenely giant camera lens who continually finds ways to get to yes. And the other junior non-commissioned officers and soldiers, especially the training support company 188th, who supported this. And of course, our invited guests who will be individually recognizing shortly. Please join me in giving them one more round of applause. Today we recognize and honor the indigenous peoples of the Americas, Native Americans, First Natives, Native Alaskans, people of vast and varied cultures and traditions. People whose ancestors developed very advanced societies, languages, arts, and effective governments that greatly predated ours. People subjugated by atrocious means. People forced from their lands, forced to assimilate, subjected to discrimination and disadvantage. In spite of these things, the strength of our American natives remains resolute. They fight to preserve their culture and share it. And as a people have continued, despite many reasons not to be committed to the ideals of our nation, often fighting heroically to defend it. I challenge all of you to leave today and learn more about the rich history of these Americans and others that continue to make us a great nation. To not just passively accept and not discriminate, but to actively learn and leverage the strength of our diversity as an army and as a nation and continue to work together in the pursuit of greatness. Thank you.
We will now present certificates of appreciation to distinguished participants of today's events. The Honorable Robert Yazzie. On behalf of the 32nd Medical Brigade, we present you with this special gift. Thank you for your inspiring words. Mr. Stephen Padilla. Milo Lone Eagle Colton. Mr. Glenn Falk. And Mr. Erwin DeLuna. Thank you for attending. This concludes today's Native American Heritage Observance. Please make your way to the pavilion on your right for refreshments.